Senator Booker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for the grace of Senator Ossoff for allowing me to go before him. I'd love to just jump in real quick, if I may, and a lot has been talk about your incredible work with the Oklahoma City bombing, but I'm also aware that you have a long record of working on domestic terrorism in pretty significant ways. In the mid-1990s, in a response to a wave of bombings and arson attacks against black churches in the South and other houses of worship, the Clinton administration formed a national task force where you and your leadership, along with others, helped to make this Justice Department priority, resulting in several hundred investigations and arrests. And I just really appreciate the totality of your record on fighting domestic terrorism. I do just really quickly just wonder, just in terms of proportionality, since that time till now, we've seen just this rise of right-wing terrorist attacks in our country. In fact, since 9/11, the majority of domestic terrorist attacks have been right-wing extremist groups. The majority of those have been white supremacist groups. And I'm just hoping, and again, you're not in the position, God willing, you will be, but just the proportionality of the resources we are directing towards trying to stop the scourge of domestic terrorism. Is this something that you will look at in terms of the degree of the resources of the agency?
Yeah, as I say, I think the first thing I should do as part of my briefings on the Capitol bombing are briefings with Director Wray as to where he sees the biggest threat and whether the resources of the Bureau and of the Department are allocated towards the biggest threat and the most dangerous and direct threat. We do have to be careful across the board. We can never, let somebody sneak around the end because we're not focusing, but we also have to allocate our resources towards the biggest threat.
Great. And I'd like to shift back to marijuana. Our earlier conversation, we were talking about the systemic racism there that I've watched tons of friends in elite colleges not worrying at all about being arrested for marijuana, while the inner city Black and brown community I live into, it's a much different set of laws applying to them. But I actually want to get to the good news, I think, in the United States of America is that red states, blue states, America general, if you want to call those states that way, or American states are moving towards more and more legalization, medical marijuana, loosening up of laws, decriminalization. It's an amazing thing, but the federal government is out of step with that, right, as of now, and I hope to work in a bipartisan way to see if we can advance the federal government, maybe to delist the legislation, think of some restorative justice elements. Just today, New Jersey signed its first major effort at legalization and restorative justice. But one thing that was done by the Obama administration was putting forward the Cole Memorandum. As I'm sure you're aware, but Attorney General Jeff Sessions rescinded the Cole Memorandum, which gave guidance to U.S. attorneys that the federal marijuana prohibition should not be enforced in states that have legalized marijuana in some form. And so do you think that the guidance in the Cole Memorandum to deprioritize marijuana enforcement should be reinstated? That is, should the Justice Department respect states' decisions on marijuana policy?
So I don't have every element of the Cole Memorandum in mind, but I do remember it, and I have read it. This is a question of the prioritization of our resources and prosecutorial discretion. It does not seem to me a useful use of limited resources that we have to be pursuing prosecutions in states that have legalized and that are regulating the use of marijuana either medically or otherwise. I don't think that's a useful use. I do think we need to be sure that there are no end runs around the state laws that criminal enterprises are doing. So that kind of enforcement should be continued. But I don't think it's a good use of our resources where states have already authorized, and it only confuses people, obviously, within the state.
So really quickly, the violence against black trans Americans is unconscionable, with many murders every single year. The bullying and violence against a lot of trans children, about a third of LGBTQ American children report missing school because of fear of violence and intimidation. Is this something that you will make a priority to protect all children from violence and discrimination, is particularly in this case transgender children and would you also commit to taking seriously the targeting of transgender adults, specifically with the trend we're seeing with the alarming numbers of murders of black transgender women?
These are hate crimes, and it's the job of the Justice Department to stop this, to find them, to enforce, and to penalize. And that's what the section of the Special Litigation Unit in the Civil Rights Division is intended to do. There is the Shepherd-Byrd Act, which was particularly aimed at this, and I think it's, I'm not sure whether it needs broadening, but it's clear to me that this kind of hateful activity has to stop. And yes, we need to put resources into it.
Thank you for your time. I look forward to voting for your confirmation, and I'm going to stop here because I do not want to make Tom Cotton mad at me.